All right, guys. So let me share my screen. Got a couple of people that are gonna be logging in late. Damien, what's up? Glad you could join us. So first, I'm gonna go through the training. Let me see what screen. Could you guys see my screen? It says easy analysis.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, bet. Perfect. So for me, guys, I like to keep my investing business, and I suggest that you guys keep your investing business real simple, right? And Warren Buffett has said this. He says, if you need a computer or a calculator to make calculations, you shouldn't buy it, right? So now when you get into like REIT style apartment buildings and larger deals, of course, you need different things. But for us, we're looking to buy, 6 units and below, or even basic apartments. You don't need really complex stuff. So I'm going to break some things down today, and then hopefully it'll open up a discussion for us in our rental businesses. And I'm going to say this a few times, but there's no right or wrong. All right. So basic formulas that all of us investors must have in our toolbox as we're growing our portfolios. All right. So before we dive into that, guys, let's talk about the job of rentals. All right. So number one, I do it. I don't know about you guys, but I do, or I'm building a rental portfolio. And for me, I had sold everything in Maryland and saved up some money, and I'm repositioning it in different markets. Chris O'Connor's on because I want to do deals where he moved to. He moved to Indiana, and I want to build a portfolio in multiple places. After today's training, you're going to understand why. But the job of rentals for financial independence, right? A lot of times you guys started with Renatus because you'd like financial independence. To build wealth, right? If you have your full-time job and you're buying deal, if you're, you know how Mark Kohler says, buy a property every year. And then the third piece is for cash flow to live off of, right? Like me and Yas are building a portfolio for cash flow to live off of mostly, all right? So the question is how, all right? We're going to cover that. So there's really two main engines that are behind a buy and hold portfolio or a buy and hold business. Number one is income. So income is what you bring in after your debt service and expenses. And then we're going to also talk about equity or price. So equity is the whole buy low, sell high concept. The idea of creating profit when you buy, or either creating profit when you guys buy your properties, or you know creating like wealth through what you do to the house, because a lot of times we'll buy it and then it's what we do to it. And so as we build rental businesses and we're looking at deals together, you're going to want to set your own goals, your own goals and parameters. So today I'm going to talk about goals and parameters for both income and equity as you're looking and analyzing deals every week. It's like, when you walk into a house, you're looking at that house from like, you're looking at the front, the kitchen, the exterior, the interior. You're looking at that house at different angles. So I want to talk to you guys about looking at your real estate deals from different angles. All right. And that's what we're going to cover today. Because you want to learn how to look at each project from like 5 or 6 different angles. All right. Let me admit so people are coming in. So let's talk about this. So I wanted to start with the job of rentals. All right. So there's different approaches to analyzing income. All right. And I'm going to talk about the 4 different approaches that I use when I'm analyzing income. And then towards the end, I want to share with you guys how to bring this all together. And then I just want to have a mastermind about this. All right. So number 1 is GRM. Who knows what GRM stands for? Anyone? You guys got this one? Going once, going twice. All right.
Gross revenue something or no?
Good guess, right? So GRM is a calculation or a formula. It stands for gross rent multiplier. Okay. Gross rent multiplier. Now, the GRM could be used to analyze markets, maybe as a market analysis. There's different ways to use the GRM. But in this case, I'm going to talk to you about how to use it when you're analyzing your buy and holds. Okay. We're going to also talk about cap rate. Okay. And there, remember, these are just everything that I talk about today. They're just measuring sticks on whether or not a deal makes sense for you to buy in your portfolio. So GRM, we're going to talk about cap rate. Anyone want to guess what NIAF stands for? Let's have some fun with this, guys. NIAF. What do you think NIAF stands for? Anyone?
Net income after.
You're on. Yeah. What's the last one? That's it. Net income after
Finance? No.
a man. That's it. John, you're good. So we're going to talk about net income after finance. And then the fourth one is your cash on cash return. All right. Cool. So let's talk about GRM, gross rent multiplier. And I want you guys to write this down, right? But the GRM, again, is a tool which is typically used when analyzing a market. But today I'll show you how to apply this to a rental property. All right. You would look at the total price of the average price in a market, and you divide it by the total annual rent. Okay. So the GRM helps you in comparison to other properties or other markets, right? So if I'm looking at the GRM in Washington, D.C., or the GRM in South Carolina, or the GRM in Indiana or Tennessee or whatever, it's a measuring stick. So the total price, okay? Let's just say the total price that I bought a property for is this $144,000. All right. Now I know that in this particular market that, I went to rentalmeter.com, I talked to an agent. I know in this particular market for this property, I can get $1,000 monthly. All right. Now, in a year, that's $12,000. So what's the total price divided by the total annual rent, right? In this instance, it would equal a GRM of 12. Okay. So now let's say you have another property, right? And I messed up on the animation, right? It just all came out. But I have another property that I bought and I'm all in for 300. My total price is $300,000. Now, in this instance, I know that I can make a monthly rent of $1,250, right? So $300,000 divided by the total annual rent is 20. Okay, so you have a GRM of 20. The lower the GRM, the better from a cash flow perspective. The higher the number, the less productive the property is at producing income. You guys with me? The higher the number, and so this is just a measuring stick. Again, for all of you guys, there's no right or wrong. So if you look at a market like Washington, D.C., you'll see GRMs around like 30s and 40s and up, right? But if you look at markets like South Carolina, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, higher cash flow markets, you'll see GRMs between 5 and 8. Now, a lot of the healthier markets where you're going to find properties for like 200,000, 150,000, things like that, expect a gross rent multiplier around, 10, 15, or 20. Now, when I'm looking at rental areas or even rental properties, this is a starting point of, of why you would want to understand the gross rent multiplier. Okay. Now, there's a specific application of this, and what investors call this is the 1% rule. Have any of you guys heard of the 1% rule?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
You've heard of the 1% rule? So typically, after I have like the gross rent multiplier, either for a market or for 5 or 6 properties in a market, because there's different ways to use the GRM or the gross rent multiplier. An easy way to do this is, or a specific application is by understanding the 1% rule. It's where we take the GRM, the gross rent multiplier, and we apply it to a specific property. All right. And I'm going to cover the 1% rule next. Okay. Now, the 1% rule, this is how you do it. And this is just another look. It's basically a rule of thumb or a shortcut. And you typically use it when you're early on in your property analysis. Okay. For example, like your agent, let's just say you're working with agents like Cher or Chris, right? And your agent sends you a bunch of listings and you want to see if this is approximately a good deal. Okay. So it's monthly gross rent should be equal to or greater than 1% of the purchase price. Okay. So let me explain this. So if in a market, like your agent sending you rents or whatever, you know that you can make $2,000 in monthly rent, right? And the total purchase price is $190,000. So it's $190,000 divided by the total purchase price, which in this case, guys, is $1,900. So in this case, the property meets the 1% rule. Okay. Now, let's say you have the same rent, which is $2,000 in monthly rent coming from a property, okay? But in this instance, the property cost $300,000. That's the total purchase price. Well, in this instance, the property has not met the 1% rule. Now, why is this helpful? I mean, we're just looking at the monthly gross rent. And we're not yet, like, again, everything's going to build on top of things. We're not yet looking at factoring in expenses and all that, right? It's just a starting point. It's a quick approximation. And not all properties and not all markets will meet the 1% rule. So you, like, as a real estate investor, you're going to have to decide on if it's important to you or not, okay? Like for you, it could be like the 0.8% rule or the 0.5% rule. What I want to help you guys realize, which took me a long time to figure out, is in real estate investing, there is no right or wrong. It's what you're looking for your portfolio. So typically, after I do the GRM for a market, and then I start looking at the GRM for individual properties, and I compare that with other investments, if my agent sends me a deal, I usually, like if my agent or my property manager is sending me deals in South Carolina, I usually, look at the 1% rule. Okay. You guys good on this? You understanding it? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was there somebody who wanted to say something?
No, I was just saying, yeah.
All right. Now, the next thing, like once you use the 1% rule or the gross rent multiplier to like pre-screen your deal, like you're going to start understanding your criteria. A much more in-depth and accurate analysis of the property is going to be what we call the cap rate. Now, guys, the cap rate is similar to the GRM, where there's different reasons why real estate investors use cap rate, okay? Like you can use cap rates to analyze a market, or you can use cap rates to analyze properties, okay? So let me define the cap rate with a formula, this formula, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what it is and how you can use it, right? So this is cap rate, guys. It is the net operating income. So it's what a property brings in annually divided by the total purchase price. All right. Now the net operating income, I got a question for you guys. Does it or does it not include the debt service? You can guess, but somebody participate with me.
It does not.
It does not.
It does not. Exactly. So net operating income is all of the expenses minus the debt service. And we're going to talk about that coming up. So it's your annual NOI divided by your purchase price, which is going to give you your cap rate. So as you can see, so for instance, if a property brings in right here 10 G's of annual NOI, you divide that by $100,000 and you're going to get a cap rate of 10%. Now, if you have the same property that produces $5,000 of NOI and you divide it by the purchase price, it's a 5% cap rate, okay? Let me read my notes, make sure I'm not leaving anything out, because I actually was prepared today. I'm proud of myself. So NOI is a very important number because it helps you to compare apples to apples when you look at properties, right? So now we're moving down the line. We're going to start looking at debt service and all that stuff, but this is the process that I go through when I'm looking at like a rental or whatever. Because every deal, guys, can have different debt service, different interest rate, different taxes and insurance. And to be able to compare two properties and see the ratio of how good a property is at producing income compared to the price is what cap rate tells you. I'm going to say that again because I wrote that down. It's the ratio of how good a property is at producing income compared to the price is what cap rate tells you. It's important to understand that you can use cap rates in all different types of ways. People use them, again, I said this, for market analysis, to compare different types of ways. People use them to compare different regions or one market to another market. People use cap rates for. You're looking at what type of return you could get if you paid just all cash for the property. I know there's no debt service here, but what I'm trying to explain to you guys is measuring sticks, okay? When you start involving debt and payments and all these other things, we're going to talk about that. It gets a little bit messy, right? If things get like, all right, well, if I put this much in repairs, and then it just changes your calculations. So I wanted to talk to you guys about a process of, building on it, okay? Because I know a lot of you guys are probably listening, especially Damien, who's like, wait, right? He's like, most people, I use debt to buy my property. So how is this even relevant? It's relevant because you're getting to look at deals for apples to apples before you go deeper into your analysis, okay? Any questions on cap rate? Because I know a lot of people get confused with cap rate. You guys good?
Good.
Okay, good, awesome. So let's build on this a little bit, guys. So now we go on to net income after financing. One of the most important numbers because it's going to tell you what you're actually getting to put in the bank, right? It's like, all right, this is what I take home. Some people use this as their primary goal. They're looking at deals with the goal of producing X amount of dollars per door, right? So if for your deals, you want to make at least $200 per door, or what did I think I put something here. So NOI, it's the net operating income minus financing cost. And what I mean by financing cost is like everything, like your closing costs, your points, your interest, insurance, taxes, and things like, so NOI minus financing cost. So for instance, if a property produces $1,200 a month, but you have a monthly debt service to the bank of $800, well, then you got $400 of cash flow left. Now, we all know that there's tax implications that vary in the future and stuff. But you guys know through watching Mark Kohler's stuff that as we build rental portfolios, that income is not taxed as like the income if you make money from your job or money or the income if you were to make money flipping a house, because rental income is not taxed the same way. And I'm sure you guys have watched the tax and legal stuff. So there's other stuff. So now we're moving in phases, right? So the next thing I'm looking at usually is if I'm using debt service or if I'm raising capital, what's my net income after financing cost? And you can do this on a big level, or you can do it on just one little house. Okay. All right. So I put a link over here to Carl's mortgage calculator, because a lot of times people don't know, right? So if you're looking at a rental property that you want to bring and add to your portfolio, you can use, like, my favorite, I use Carl's mortgage calculator. That's just one that I've been used to using. So you can plug in what you think the interest rate is and what you're going to pay. So you can figure this out when you're actually analyzing your deals. Okay. Now, the next one is cash on cash return. Okay, now this is important. And the way you come up with this, guys, and hopefully you guys are writing this down, because this is all calculations that you can do on a piece of paper. Like, I just do them like on my iPhone with on my note section or whatever. So it's your net income after financing divided by your total down payment. Okay, now this is like the best of the formulas when talking about analyzing income property, right? This one you would want to use to complement the cap rate in NIAF, which is net income after financing. This gives you an idea of what type of return you're getting on your down payment, or the amount of cash that you have invested if you're using financing. So again, when I say down payment, I mean total cost down. This includes any repairs, any closing costs, points, etc. So let's do an example. All right. So for that same property, right, I took $400 of monthly cash flow. If you multiply that by 12, you're going to get $4,800 of cash flow per year. All right. Now, let's say that I had to put $50,000 down to create this income stream. Okay. Now, if you guys do the math, that's a 9.6 cash on cash return. So as an investor, I want you to take this stuff and these numbers and the returns that you're making. And a lot of times what we do is we compare it to other things. Like if you were to go and invest in like an index fund in the stock market, and that index fund is producing less, right? So you can compare certain investments and say, hey, this investment is giving me a better cash on cash return. Therefore, I am going to park my money here. You guys with me?
Yeah.
Okay. And let me know if I'm going too fast, because man, I do that sometimes. I'm ADHD. So I'm like, maybe I'm going too fast, maybe I'm going too slow. I can never really tell, but I want you guys to, we're going to build on these concepts now. So let's talk about, we talked about like how to analyze your income. Now we're going to talk about ways to build equity, right? Now, obviously, income for me is the reason why I do rentals, why I do anything, right? Income. The second piece is equity. So guys, equity is basically what you own, right? So income is important. We call it a rental property because it produces rent, right? That's one of the main reasons I buy it. You can use the income in many ways, but in addition to the income, at times the income may not be that good, right? Sometimes investors buy in areas where the income is not that great, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? It's not the only reason we buy property. Ideally, you want your rentals to produce both good income and have decent equity potential, okay? Because then that's like great, okay? When you buy deals in the more expensive markets, typically the cash flow is not going to be off the charts, usually, right? Like in like Washington, D.C. or San Francisco, right? So the equity analysis is another thing you must understand and bring to the table with your investing, okay? So when you buy, oh, let me explain this, I wrote it out. So these are the 4 different ways to build equity, right? Number 1 is you create wealth on day 1 if you learn how to buy at a discount, okay? remember, it's the whole buy low, sell high concept. So as you're looking for your deals, it's really not unreasonable for you to get a 10%, a 20%, and even a 30% discount from a motivated seller. Like by doing that, when you can negotiate deals, you're getting discounts. So maybe a part of like your criteria for your rental portfolio is, it's got to create $400 in monthly rental income after everything. And my criteria is I've got to buy it at a 25% discount. If I can't buy it at that discount, it's not going to make sense for me as an investor. Okay. So number one, buy at a discount. The other way to build equity, everyone, is to add value. Okay. You got to add value. And so you guys know this, if you buy a property and maybe you put 5 or 10 grand into it, you did what we call forced appreciation. Okay. Because you're not always going to be able to buy it at a discount. Maybe you buy it at fair market value, but you put some money into it and now it's worth a lot more. Okay. The third way to build equity, and what I love about rentals, guys, is our tenants pay down the mortgage, right? As they pay down the mortgage, you're building more equity or basis in the property. And then number 4 is the passive price appreciation. Now, typically when I'm looking at deals, and everybody's different, the first 2 are the only ones that really matter to me. Okay. The 3 and the 4 are like cherry on top of the ice cream for me, and everybody's different. So there's assets, there's liabilities, and there's equity, right? In fact, in marketing, like if you do your own QuickBooks, that's the formula, right? Assets minus liability equals equity. Okay. Assets minus liabilities equal equity. And so it's so important for us as investors to understand this. Okay. So let me give you guys an example. Let's say we purchase a property for $100,000. Okay. Now, if you're buying it from a bank and they want a down payment, let's just say you put 20% down. Okay. Now you have a loan on this property for $80,000. Okay. But let's say, well, hold on, let me go back real quick. So you purchased it for 100, the down payment's 20,000, the loan is $80,000. But because you put that money in, and remember, it doesn't have to be your own money, but you've instantly created owner's equity with the down payment. That's your money, right? You've got your own equity in there. So now, but let's say you bought it for $100,000, guys, but the real value is $120,000, right? So it's worth 120, but you were able to negotiate a little discount, right? That's not unreasonable. Well, when you guys do that as investors, you instantly create wealth. This is why I absolutely love real estate, right? You've instantly created $40,000 of instant wealth or equity. This is why, like, I freaking love real estate. I get excited just talking to you guys about it. It's awesome. Now, as you're looking at your deals, I want you to start thinking about, as an investor, what is your criteria, right? Like, hey, how much do you want to make out of your monthly cash flow after debt service? Yeah, what is that for you? Or do you want to make sure that the property meets the 1% rule, or is that not that important to you? Okay. So all of these things kind of build on each other when I'm looking at a rental deal. Okay. Any questions real quick? You guys good? You guys learned anything, or is it?
I got a question for you, Mayor.
Go for it.
How did you come to the real value of 120,000? Is that because, I mean, I understand like the purchase 100,000 down payment alone, but where did you get the number of 120,000 for the real value? Can you clarify that?
No, yeah, I got you, bro. I was just assuming that, like, Curtis, you bought it for 100, right? because you
Mhm.
negotiated it down a little bit.
Okay, from a
Right.
negotiation, okay.
Yeah, but the real value of this is 120, right? But then you put 20% down, and the loan on this property or the debt service is 80. So
Okay.
I'm explaining, by us negotiating and understanding the criteria that we want in our rental portfolios,
Mm.
over time, we're going to be able to get the results that we want.
It's just like my last property.
Damien, I can't really hear you, bro.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
I said it's just like the property I just bought. When I purchased it for 302, but it appraised for 332
Nice.
or 333.
Nice.
So I instantly had $31,000 in equity in it.
Okay.
And then did you do any forced appreciation to it?
Absolutely.
And now, how much did you put in? I'm curious.
I put 13, a little, almost close to 14, about 13.5 or something like that.
I can almost guarantee you that house is worth at least 350, bro.
Oh, it's more than that. It's
Yeah.
close. It should be about close to 400. It's between 390, 300, 390, probably 400.
Getting rich using the bank's money, bro. Makes me happy. Puts a smile on my face. That's awesome. That is awesome. And that's why real estate is so powerful, guys. Now check this out. So let's put everything together, right? We started from like the most basic analyzation, whether you're analyzing a market or you're analyzing a property. Then we went on to discuss the 1% rule. There's no right or wrong. It's just a measuring stick. And you want to determine if you want your properties to meet the 1% rule or not. Then we went on to talk about cap rate and why cap rates are important to understand. After the cap rate, we went and talked about the net income after financing, because that's the real number that you get to put in your bank account if you're using debt service. Okay. And there can be different types of debt service, right? There can be private capital, there can be traditional, there can be a 12-month hard money loan, right? So then we talked about cash on cash return, and that's what you've got into the property divided by what it's going to make on an annual basis. And then we also talked about different ways. So you have analyzing your income, but then you also have analyzing your equity and how you can create more of it. Okay. So for what I want you guys to do today is set milestones and goals for yourself, or set a criteria that you want your rentals to meet, right? Because, you could start figuring out what the next 10 years, 15 years, like what your retirement and what your real estate portfolio is going to look like. Okay. So you got to preset your own goals and milestones and kind of determine what marketplaces you want to invest in based off of taxes in an area, based off of insurance cost in an area, based off of your cash on cash return. These are all just things that I want you guys looking at. It's not just, this is more of a analysis of your portfolio. So number one, you want to find and analyze properties. So what I would like everyone to do, because we're going to meet next Monday, right? We're meeting next Monday. It's where we talk about deals. So guys, find a couple of deals to analyze and let's talk about it. If you're Damon, you always got one. You're like the best student I got. I wish I could duplicate Damien's. So finding and analyzing, I want you to find a couple of properties and just go through the process that I showed you. In fact, I've created a cheat sheet for everyone that I'm going to upload onto the page, Facebook page. So step 2 is you're going to gather all the info, guys. So rent, expenses, financing cost, right? Because when you're looking at deals, you're just in your head, you want to get an idea. Now, what I do when as I've been looking at mobile home parks and apartments and stuff, I am just calculating that 50% of my NOI, or net operating income, is going to go out in expenses. It may not be that much, but that is a good measuring stick of what to say, because you don't always know your expenses, right? You don't know what a property's expenses are. So what I do, everyone, as a measuring stick is, now I'm looking at 40 units right now. And so I haven't had the owner write back to me, but I'm looking at what the property produces. And I found this on LoopNet. There's properties everywhere. But I took 50% of the NOI and said, hey, that's going to expenses. Okay, so you're going to gather all the information. And then what I want you guys to start doing is just start creating a snapshot of what this property can do, right? Using what we covered, which was the 1% rule. We covered cap rate. We covered net income after financing. And we also covered understanding what your cash on cash return is. All right. So you're really trying to look at it from different angles. And if you have a wife, talk to her and say, hey, look, if we invest this here, this is what we can get as a return. And as you guys become better investors, you're going to kind of diversify, right? Maybe it's different types of real estate, or maybe you have a certain amount of money and you put it in index funds or stock market or stuff like that. Maybe a piece of it you take and you put into, like, I've got a bunch of money in cryptocurrency, right? Because I understand the trends and I want to be able to meet a certain criteria for my overall like investment portfolio. You guys with me? And so number 4 is you're gonna do a market analysis and study comparable sales. Now, as Renata students, you guys should know how to do your own comps. Do not rely on a real estate agent to run your comps. Take their comps with a grain of salt, but you're gonna analyze different markets. And because of the relationships in Renatus, you're gonna determine what markets do you wanna play in, and how can you systemize and be a part of the markets that meet your investment criteria.
Mayor,
Yes.
Nigel, can I just jump in a sec on that same thing about comps?
Yeah.
There's a friend of mine, he did his training elsewhere, but we actually partnered together, generating leads and with a view to doing some deals. And he sent me something today because he has like us, how we would have a team. He has a team, real estate, realtor, etc. The realtor sent him a property that, hey, it's a good property, this is the price. And the realtor said, and the comps in the area as high as 320,000. So I said, okay. And I went and started to check. And based on what I've learned, when I checked, the comps weren't, there were 1 or 2 houses that sold up there, but the majority of the houses, it's 3-bedroom, single bath. The majority of them were like 255, 260. I said, bro, only at a push we could get something there at about 270, 275. Other than that, you're looking 240s, 250s. He then came back and said, yeah, with his other business partners, they had actually done a project there before, and they had the comps at 280 and they got burned. It was only able to sell for 255. And I go like, yeah, but I've just started in this thing, man.
Yeah.
But it was obvious to me when I, pulled up the comparable properties. So I'm just throwing that in. The real estate agent, I guess was trying, you just want to get the property, get it moved. So
of course they just want to get moved, man. That's their play, right? And it's all good that that's their play, but as an educated investor, come on, guys. That's why we're learning with Renatus. That's why I took these classes. Like, I want you guys to have control over your finances, your money, your income. Like, that's the whole game right here. So, so Philomena had a question. What if you're not working with your spouse and you have good credit score? Can you get a loan for a rental? Philomena, there's lots of ways to get into properties with or without a bank. And there are lenders that'll lend to you on rental property with or without showable income, right? There's a lot of things that you can do. In fact, I don't know if you guys are taking advantage of this, but you guys know that on gogfo.com, if you find a property and it meets your investment criteria, let me see if I can show it to you. These guys will help you find the money.
You got to have it on the contract, though.
Say that again, gogfo.com.
You got to have it on the contract, though.
Yeah. So when I was buying that portfolio before over in South Carolina, I submit my property here, and they were actually my second best uh, funds. Like when I was looking for funds to do it, they did a good job. I was actually impressed, where I wasn't really expecting, because I've never used this before, but I had it under contract.
Also, was able to go through. I remember you told me you signed up and you was waiting for to hear back from them. So they did.
They did get back to me, and I was in my due diligence period, and they came back with a lender with a decent rate, better than most other, because I talked to a couple of brokerages. I'm sorry. I talked to a couple of broker lenders or whatever, where they were shopping for stuff for me. And then I talked with them. They got me the best deal other than my small local bank that I'm now doing business with in South Carolina.
Nice.
So
Umar, I haven't done the buy and hold. I'm still going through my AITs, and I haven't gone to buy and hold as yet. So I don't want to ask a question which would be really basic that I'll probably come across when I'm doing it. But the thing for me with the buy and hold is, at the end of the day, there are some factors that need to be considered. And I just heard you say something about being able to get the money to purchase, even though you don't have the credit or don't have cash. So then for me, the money you're going to use, you then must consider coming out of your cash flow, the rental from the property, to be able to pay for that money, right?
to be able to pay for the debt service, correct?
That's logical. And so in truth and in fact, where I guess your expectation should be in the first instant then is to be able to make money off of your tax breaks. Am I making sense there? And then with the possibility of doing chunking down of the, no?
No, now you're mixing things and confusing.
All right, good. See, that's why I asked.
So no, but I'm glad you asked, right? So a lot of investors, like for me, use the buy, right? Rehab.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this.
Yeah.
Buy, rehab, rent,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and then refi. Okay, now a lot of investors do this early on in the game when they're trying to build the cash flow. Okay,
Mhm.
so building a huge portfolio. Okay, now you want to make sure you're buying at a discount,
Discount.
right? And then you rehab, and then when you rent it out, after you've got it rented out, even if you've used more expensive money, like if you use expensive money at 10%, but within 12 months, you refinance this mortgage with a regular bank into maybe 3% money, right?
Right.
You're gonna have what's coming in from rent, which we could say is legit. You just got to make sure your numbers work, right? You could say,
Yeah.
so when you do that refinance, let's just say you had more expensive money here. When you do the refinance, you pay the more expensive money off. Now you're into a cheaper lending instrument, right? But now you have rent. Let's just say you make rent of $1,000, but your mortgage is only, I don't know, depends on the marketplace, but your mortgage is 400. So you're as long as you're always making money in your business. And guys, this stuff that we're learning in real estate, we can use when we're buying businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all like that. That's why this real estate stuff is so powerful. You could buy a laundromat and look at the numbers and see what you got to raise for it, and then refinance out. As long as your business income is producing a lot more than what your debt service is,
Right.
you're a businessman or a woman.
And why this came up for me, because you remember I was focusing so far on the possibility of wholesaling and fix and flipping. But of course, we know we're learning various strategies. And I came across a couple of properties that I went, actually, this wouldn't be a good fix and flip, but it'll probably be a good rental. But I was still concerned about, my own issues and being able to access it. So I'm gonna go back.
Cool. Let's talk about that, because I think this is going to help everybody. So let's just be smart here real quick, right? And so if you find a rental and you want to add it to your portfolio, right? And if you don't have the money for the down payment, you can raise the capital for the down payment, or you can raise the capital for the whole project. Okay, it doesn't have to be your money. So just because you don't have money doesn't mean that you can't acquire rental properties. Okay, let's talk about it on a real small level. Like for me, like I'm buying these little cheap houses because Bill Omi was telling me to do it. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So if I bought a property for $30,000, okay, just I need $30,000 to buy this house, right? And let's just say I go to someone and I'm like, hey, look, a lot of people have money, this little bit of money sitting in their savings or bank accounts, right? It's doing nothing, it's losing value. So how could I provide value to that person? Hey, if you give me the $30,000 for 12 months, I will give you 10% on that. So 10% is $3,000, okay? So now I owe my investor $3,000 in 12 months because that's what we negotiated. And it could be more or less, right? Now, let's say I buy this property, but let's say this property produces, I don't know, this is real numbers. This property produces $800 in monthly cash flow, okay? Now, how many months of my rent do I got to give to pay off my investor? 4 months, 4 months of rent, right? Are you with me? Or no?
To pay off the interest.
To pay off just the interest. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? A couple of
Oh,
months, right? But
yeah.
this just allowed you to get into the property, add it to your portfolio and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
Now, let's say when you bought it, it wasn't, let's say when you bought it, it wasn't rented out, it was just kind of empty. Well, it's rent ready, but so you put a renter in there and you get it making that money. Within 12 months, and every bank is different. That's why if one bank shuts you down, it doesn't mean every bank is going to shut you down. So now you know that you owe this investor some money, his interest plus its principal, right? But within 12 months, if you can refi, and if the market appreciates, you might be able to get more, but you could basically refinance and pay off your private capital.
Right.
Now, what I'm doing, and the piece that I left out in the middle, is what I'm doing is I'm taking these houses and I'm selling them on a lease with an option. So I'm using the option that my potential buyers are paying me as the payback to my investor. And then I'm pocketing the monthly cash flow. So I'm creating income streams with $0 out of pocket. And then I've just been doing this on little house after little house after little house. Now, let's say you're in a market where the houses are $300,000. What's to say that you can't do a mixture of both private capital and short-term hard money? Mm-hmm. You can, as long as the numbers work, right? Like if you got into a property, Nigel, with hard money, because have you guys heard of these fixed to rent loans that are available through hard money, fixed to rent? Like, let's say you get a fixed to rent loan for 12 months, and then they have a plan to transition you into a more expensive 30-year product, right? You could do that all day as long as you make sure that your private capital is getting paid. So you guys can do what I want to make clear to everyone is you can do any strategy that you want. You just need to have the know-how, the resources and tools to do it.
Hence you hear me saying, I just need to get through. I'm working my way through these AITs. I'm working my way through. But of course, I'm interacting with you guys and this information is coming up and then there are things they're hearing. So I'd throw questions up. But
and that's fine. Yeah. That's why we do this, to help each other out, to have each other back. Now, what I recommend for everybody, and people are just impatient. What I recommend for people is take a year and just absorb, take it in, ask questions, look at other people's deals. Don't be in such a rush, right? This is not a race, it's a marathon. Take it in for a year, figure out what type of deal you want to do first, and then execute. Right? Like, people get they're like, oh, I started with Renatus and I haven't done a deal and it's been a year. Okay, what do you mean? Like, we're talking about wealth generation. We're talking about generational wealth. These aren't little checks you're going to be earning with real estate. So if you put the time in early to understand and learn, then it's going to pay off long term.
Oh, yeah.
Just want to make that clear. So, hey guys, it's 7:55. I'm right on time. Let's open it up to a little Q&A or even mastermind about buy and hold. Like, we know one thing, like I know Damien's, he's increasing his cash flow by using Section 8. That's fantastic. And that's been working for him. What are some ideas? So real quick, before we go off into the mastermind and stuff, everyone should use what we covered today. And I want you to analyze, 3 or 4 deals, right? If you want me to go through it again slowly, I will. But what I would like for everyone to do is take what we covered today, right? And then, so let me just go real quick one more time. If you could see my screen here, I just want you to go through and take the steps, right? Take a market or take a property and go through the GRM, see if your property meets the 1% rule, okay? And it's not bad if it doesn't meet the 1% rule. It just depends on what your criteria is. Go back and try to analyze what your cap rate is. Hey, all right, so if I know this townhouse or if I know this single family home is producing $10,000, what's my cap rate on this? Okay, let me compare that to other cap rates in other areas. Okay, then you start opening up your mortgage calculator, right? If I put some debt service on this rental, what am I looking at? What's going to be the cash flow that comes into my bank account every month when they pay? Okay. Then after that, you're going to go and you're like, all right, well, cool. This is cool. Now, if I have to use my own money, what's my cash on cash return? If I'm using none of my own money, my cash on cash return can be infinite, right? Oh, I love real estate. So then I also want you guys to think about, hey, depending on what market you're in, because like I know in our market, like Maryland and Virginia, parts of DC, it's an appreciating market, right? Now, if the market doesn't crash, I can anticipate making a lot of money on appreciation. I just don't use that as a measuring stick. So your goal this week, even if you're busy, it'll take 5 minutes, man. Just look at the practice is what we need to make deals happen. And then if you find deals, maybe bring them to the mastermind next Monday, so we could be like, all right, is this a good deal to you? Is it a bad deal? And we can kind of just talk about it. And I will post this thing in the page. This is kind of like a cheat sheet. Yeah, a little cheat sheet. I don't know if I'm gonna post this recording. The purpose is you guys being here, but if I do, I'll send you the link. All right. If I do, I'll send you a link. All right, guys, any questions, comments? What are you guys doing? I know Damien's making offers. I think Keith is on. Keith was looking at some properties. Hopefully Keith Jones is doing some deals and having some fun. I know Nigel's been busy. Philomena's looking for flips. So that's good.
Mayor,
Yep.
this is Valerie.
Oh, hey, Val.
I got a work call during the presentation. So if I could get a copy of the recording.
All right. I'll post it on, I'll upload it on YouTube and I'll post it on our page.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You are welcome, guys. Cool. Was this helpful for you guys? Are you guys, I mean, should we keep doing these type of things or just want to, I mean, we only got-
Very much helpful.
Definitely helpful.
Agree.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Helps us, keeps us, it's like a nice refresher for some people that haven't been available for a while.
Mayor, look at my face. Are you crazy? Why?
No, because like I do these and I try to get people on, but out of our whole group, there's only 10 people on. You know how big our community
Usual
is?
suspects. That's all right.
It's like, man, what do I get? I mean, I want you guys to be successful and do deals. I just don't know what else we could do to support people in their success, right? So,
Anybody got any money they want to make some money on?
The only thing that you can do is show up, Umair.
Damien said, does anybody have some money that they want to make a return on?
Damien, I'll work with you one of these days, but right now I'm dealing with Umar and Ed. So
So yeah, he's grown his retirement with me.
Nice.
Wow, you got a deal you want to present,
I do.
Daniel? All right, well here, let me stop my share, bro.
No,
And
it's not, I don't have no presentation and all that.
you don't have to have a presentation. Just tell us about what you got.
Oh, okay. It's I don't know if I talked to you about it before already or not, but it's a guy, I met him, I was coming from Panera Bread and I mean not Panera Bread, but Panda Express. And he saw my sign on my car and he thought I was a realtor. And he was, trying to see if he can get his son to find a house or something like that. And I told him I was an investor and I buy houses. And he said, "Oh, you do?" He said, "I got a house to sell." But it kind of seemed like it was just like an afterthought. Like he kind of just thought of it just right then and there. So I was like, okay, well, let me get your number and I'll come past and check it out. So I set up a time. I went past, sat in his living room, talked to him, found out his wife passed away 6 years ago. He
Damien cut off, or maybe it cut off for me. You still there?
you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm hearing.
And and I explained to him about seller finance, and he ended up getting a reverse mortgage. Yeah, I told you about the guy with the reverse
I remember.
mortgage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ended up getting a reverse mortgage. So we be kind of negotiating for the past few weeks. And the last thing that we negotiated with him, presented to him was owner finance. He he said he would be interested in the owner finance, and then he kind of changed his mind. But initially, he said he would be interested in owner finance, and we talked about giving him some money down, and then giving him uh, some money over time. And once we presented that offer, his last offer was just today. And so let me tell you my offer to him, and then let me tell you his offer to me, which was crazy.
Okay.
My offer to him was 321. He said he wanted 55 to 60% upfront of the profit, which was the profit would have been 100,000. He owed 221 on the reverse mortgage. We were giving him 321. So he wanted 55 to 60% down, and then he said he would be willing to work with the financing, owner financing. So we gave him that, and then he just came back and said he's not willing to do the owner finance. He just want to cut ties with the property. Give him 276. So he's willing to take what's that?
About 54 off.
Yeah, he's willing to take $54,000 less so he can be done with it.
I love it.
Yeah,
My maths might be off, but you're talking 50 something.
yeah. It's yeah.
My man. So what do you need?
So did you find out anything about that reverse mortgage thing that you were trying to find out, Damien?
I mean, it's pretty much like a regular mortgage, to be honest with you. I mean, you got to pay it off just like you would have to pay off a regular mortgage. So
Yep.
once we find out what the final numbers is, and then we would just go through the process of contacting them and paying it off. The house is in pretty good shape. I walked through it, but I wasn't like really fine tooth combing it, so I would want to do it another walkthrough. But it was a new roof put on 2 years ago. The only thing I don't like is it has a pool. And I was going to ask you, Umar, have you ever bought a house that had a pool in the backyard? And because I
Nah.
would want to get that.
Wait,
Yeah, I
wait.
want to get.
Are you gonna get? Are you gonna hold this, Damien, or are you gonna?
Yeah, there's gonna
or
be
you
a.
gonna
There's gonna be a
wholesale it?
hold. No, there's gonna be a buy and hold.
If he wanted to, because he got it at a discount, he could wholesale it, right? And that's the beauty of knowing all these different strategies because he can wholesale it, make some money, and then
I
reposition.
can make some really good money because the price that I gave him was for houses that sold that didn't have any renovations done. It doesn't need a lot of work, but I know if I did some minor stuff to it,
Cosmetic stuff.
yeah, like the house literally next door to it, and it's updated more, but it's pending at 360.
Mm,
So I know if I put
you can flip.
$10,000 in, I can get 360 easy.
My man. That's awesome.
So
So,
yeah.
so based on what Damien is saying there, that's why my question came up in terms of, I mean, I'm not afraid to say it, my situation now is a dire one where I don't have cash flow. And so I was actually looking at doing, as I said, things like wholesaling and fixing and flipping to generate some cash as opposed to doing the long-term buy and hold. But given what Umair has said just now, I can probably still do the buy and hold while, because I'm seeing properties that would work better as buy and hold than trying to fix and flip it. Or in some cases, if I try to wholesale it, I'll have to try to wholesale it to somebody who's looking for probably a rental property or something like that.
Right. So
And so for in this instance, Nigel, like if you were Damien, the strategy that you may implement is you got it for under contract for pretty cheap. You know that the seller's going to get his reverse mortgage paid off, so he's going to get what he wants. You're solving his problem, and maybe you would charge him 10 or 15, not charge him. I mean, it's going to come out of the contract.
Yeah.
But you would get some money out of the transaction, be done with it, and give it to a guy like Damien, who then takes it, or a guy like me or someone else who takes it and flips it, or takes it and keeps it in their rental portfolio.
That's it. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I don't know who said it. I don't know if it's in one of the classes or not, but it's like let everybody know that you are a real estate investor. Like this shouldn't be your secret. It should be your family should know, your friends should know. If you can get signs and stuff on your car, let people know. Because if I didn't have that sign on my card, I got one to talk to me and say that to me.
Yeah.
Same with your marketing businesses. Right?
Yep.
I'm telling people what I do. Like, this is what I do. I actually got a referral. Like, look, I'm not interested, but this kid right here is interested. I said, okay, great. But you guys, it's really difficult. Like, you gotta have, like, I get it. Like, you could do deals with no money and no credit and this and that. But if you're gonna do that, you gotta have multiple exit strategies because you cannot risk other people's money if you don't have multiple exit strategies. And I don't want to ever see anyone get hurt, right? So if you yourself ain't got no money, no credit, but you're like, oh yeah, I can go out and do investing, like just be mindful, treat other people's money like, well, better than it's your own money.
Yes.
So just be mindful about that stuff, right? Because I see a lot of people wanting to get into real estate and you guys got your education, but some of them are like, I got no money, but I'm looking at deals. I'm like, look, if you had enough money to just take the education, just learn right now. And if you need money, then leverage the marketing side of the business. That's why Bob Snyder created it. So as you get your money situation better and you have a better understanding, that's when you kind of grow your stuff. So just some ideas.
All of the above.
Yeah, just some ideas. Anything else, guys, or we can end it? I'm glad we all got together today. It's nice to see everybody. Next Monday, if you guys come here with no deals, we're gonna give you the evil eye. So come here, run numbers on at least 3 or 4, and then we'll talk.
All right.
All right, y'all. Cheers. Have a great evening.
Perfect.
Hey,
Okay,
guys.
night.
Wait. Damien, you never told us, I'm so sorry. You never told us what you needed for your deal.
Nobody said that they had any money. Did they want to make any money on?
No, Umer asked you, what do you need? You probably didn't hear him. He asked, what do you need?
You're a good listener. I'm curious, what do you need and for how long?
That's what he said.
55,000.
And for how long? The short term or long term?
Short term,
What's
long enough to just do the refi.
how long you need to do the refi?
Being as though we wouldn't be going through a traditional loan as soon as we get a renter in place. So I would have to evaluate and see what I would have to do to fix up in order for me to get a renter in place, and I'll be able to do the once I got the renter in place, the lease signed, I can do a refi.
Okay.
You know,
So what, like 6 months?
yeah, I'm thinking 6 months.
And what if it doesn't refinance for the price that you think?
You said, what if it doesn't refinance for the price that I think? It
Mhm.
doesn't have to finance for the price that I think, because I would only be in it to it at 221. So I know for a fact.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Damien,
So-
give me a call, brother.
There you go.
So aren't you glad that you got on? Keith.
I'm always
Umer,
on.
I didn't know if he was here. So Keith, yeah, I'm glad.
I'm
you
always
got
on.
today, boy.
Umer, before you go, would you be anytime going further down? Will you be at any point in time be doing a session, speaking to the process and whatever else to be able to get property done as Section 8, or will Damien be doing that?
We did a Section 8 thing. Did you miss it?
Probably before I came on board then.
All right, well, maybe we'll do it again.
I'm not pressing, but I'm just trying to find it, if that's
It's been
possible.
that long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
It was the beginning of this year.
The beginning of this year?
Mhm.
Yeah, remember I only came on in about March.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all right.
February.
Okay. Appreciate
We
it.
got a bunch. Oh, by the way, guys, if you're not registered for your summit, get registered tonight. You know, you got your own link. We got the summit coming up. I'm really excited about it because the more little sneak peeks that they're giving us, the better I'm feeling about the 4-day summit. So if you're not registered yourself, get registered for the summit and then send the links out and start creating. I'm working on creating ads for our team, and then I'm gonna send them to you guys. We got a marketing training coming up this month. So
Yeah, we registered and we got about 5 or 6 other people registered as well.
it's gonna be great.
Nice.
You guys are really gonna like it. Oh, and then the last thing is this month on the 14th, we have the creator or the owner of the investor operating system coming out to drill down and teach us how it works, because the iOS does so much. So it's free. You don't have to register for it. Well, you have to register for it. You don't have to pay for it. But you and your guests are welcome to come. And I think it's going to be awesome. I got him booked. He's going to take time with us. So don't let him leave without him answering all your questions on the investor operating system.
I'm in the front row, so I got my front seat.
My man. And tell your customers about it, because this workshop, I think, is going to be a game changer for all of us. He's going to talk about AI technology, and Steve Nomura started using it and has gotten some really good feedback for me.
So we can get guests on.
Guests, ICMs, everybody.
I've been using it to do absentee owner properties in a couple of counties, and those are where I'm now generating possible leads.
There's so much that it does that it's like, I even talked to the guy. I'm like, look, I had it for a while, but let me be honest, I don't think I'm understanding everything. And he started explaining to me the Scrum board and how it works. And I'm like, because the videos in Renatus Helios are dated. They're old. I requested, and I requested for them to change that, and they're working on it. But the company's just coming out with so much more content in so much more classes, and they're trying to make things better and better for us. But it just takes time. I get it. There's so many moving parts of Renatus. We just give too much. So those are the announcements, guys. I just wanted to make them. We're having a marketing training coming up for our team. And thanks for being on. Have a good night, guys.
All right.
Hey,
Take care.
quick question
Bye,
on there.
Yes, sir. Go for
Do
it.
you have any purchasing contracts for Maryland?
Yeah. I think
That
so.
in-
Let me check real quick. For Maryland,
Yeah.
I should. You know,
Can
sometimes I don't even use the state contract, but I just use my own contract in whatever state I go. You don't have to have the.
Damien,
So.
Yes.
you remember when we were doing the study groups
Uh-huh.
and we were talking about like water rights or something like that in Maryland? Do you remember that?
That was for Baltimore, yeah. Uh-huh.
So do you remember the context of that?
Do I remember what the
The
context?
context of what we were talking about. Is it water rights or what's the
No, it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the land. You were talking about, I think the land, because in Baltimore you can own the property, but you don't own the land. So
right?
you have to find out who own the land so you could buy the land as well.
I don't know if I have
Okay.
Maryland's contract, Damien, but this is like a simple rep C that I use. It's a PDF and it's fillable. I like when I'm dealing with like home buyers, I like to try to make everything to be as easy and simple to read as possible.
Mhm.
I got this I can send you, but I don't have. If you want Maryland's, I'm sure Cher or Chris will give you one.
You can send me that one too, please.
Yeah, if you want it, I'll send it to you right now.
Appreciate it.
All right. You want me to just send it to what is it?
You got my Beauty for Ashes one, right?
BEAUT. Yep, there it goes. All right, let me send it to you now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And this. Cool. All right, and yeah, maybe reach out to Keith, man. He's got a self-directed and stuff. He's interested. So what I would do if I were you, bro, is I call him now.
I am. You still on, Key?
Nah, he's still on. So hit him up.
All right, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, Val.